Hello, we're back again with another episode of Skelly, our text-based RPG, and what we have before us is Godot 4.5 release. It's another huge update for Godot, and for us, we want to be running the latest version of Godot always. Just scroll down, search for Godot, and it'll take you straight to this page. No matter what it looks like, you want to download the 4.5 version. And once you do that, you can open up Godot 4.5 and double-click your project. And now it's going to ask you if you want to open it up in 4.5, even though you last used it in 4.4. You don't have to back up your project. We didn't get super far, so nothing about it has broken. So you can just hit OK. It's taken a minute, and now we're here. And so now Skelly is in 4.5. Let's go. Just a heads up, my assets folder is going to look a little different from you guys because I'm still building it out as I'm doing this video. But for you guys, it'll be complete. So don't worry if things look slightly different. Just make sure that we're on the same folder, which is Skelly Episode 2. Okay, so what we want to do now is we should go to our map screen and let's work on this a little bit. We've got this background in here that has this entire picture, but I want to break it up into more pieces. So let's go to Assets, and we see the map screen background. Let's drag these 5 PNG files into our folder. So we're going to do that like that. And whatever, if it has the same name as before, it'll just overwrite it. So we lose what we had before, but we've gained it back in different PNGs. So now let's recreate the island that we had before. So we're going to select top right here, right click, or Control A, and you're going to add a child node, which is going to be TextureButton. You can type into the search bar, create, and we're going to call this map or island. Okay, let's expand this to the full TextureButton, and it's going to be this one. And I believe it's going to be the full size, so let's just drag it in, and it should line up perfectly. Let's also create another TextureButton, create, and this time we're going to call this overlay. Okay, and we're also going to expand this to full, and then we're going to drag and drop the map screen overlay into here, just like that. So now we have a nice little overlay. Gives us a border around our island. And what we want to do now is we want to add in the mountains. Control A, create. And this time I'm not going to expand this to full rect. And the reason for that is I want to go over the mountains with you. So let's rename this mountains. And inside here, we're going to use the AtlasTexture. If you guys remember, if we want to use the AtlasTexture, we have to select that first, and then we click it to expand, and this is where we throw in our texture. So we're going to grab our mountains, toss it in, and it's going to line up all of these mountains for you, which is fine, but you guys can be a little bit more creative. So from here, you guys can edit the region and select which of the mountains you want to show. So for example, I want to show just this mountain right here. Close. And then you can minimize this by just selecting this right here again. If you wanted to show the texture area, you click it to expand and you can see this right here. But one thing you're going to notice is the pixel of the mountains is a different size from the rest of the screen. So we need to go to the stretch mode right here and make sure it's keep. And once it scales down, we have a lot of extra space right here. So just make sure to drag that and have it only show a border over exactly what you selected. So now you can press Alt, make this indicator pop up, left click, and you can drag it. What we want to do is maybe create a couple different mountains. So I'm going to create a little container for our mountains. So I'm going to click right up here, Control A, Control, and I'm going to throw this mountain into this control. And I'm going to call this mountain 1. And this control is going to be mountain container. Okay, so I'm just going to duplicate this, Control D, or you can right click and you can duplicate. I'm going to first separate it by pressing Alt, left clicking, moving it over. And let's take a look at this. I duplicated this texture rect, right? So what happens if I change the second texture rect? Edit region. And maybe I want to select this mountain right here. Close. You're going to notice that this previous thing changed as well. And this is what happens when you duplicate nodes. They are still somewhat linked. And so the way to go about that is I'm going to press Ctrl Z now, revert it back to what it was before. It doesn't happen for everything when you duplicate it, but textures are definitely one thing that remain linked. So for the second mountain, I'm going to go to this arrow key right here, and I'm going to go make unique. And what that does is it breaks the link between the two. So now I can edit this freely, like this. Make sure that I'm grabbing exactly the pixels that I want. Close. Size this properly. Press Alt, left click, and drag. And now you can drag your mountains. So the workflow is going to be Control D to duplicate. Hold down Alt, left click to move it around. And if you want to make this unique, you gotta hit that arrow key and make unique. So let's do this one more time. Let's edit the region and let's grab this bunch of mountains. I'm gonna grab all of this. But of course, this is free for you guys to do however you want. So you don't have to follow what I'm doing here. You can populate your map how you want it to look. And then I'm gonna do Control D again. I'm going to select the texture so that I can edit the region. Just going to go right here. Close. Wait. Did I make unique? I didn't. I forgot myself, right? We're going to make this unique. And let's separate it too, just so that we can see it properly. I'm going to expand this, edit region, close, and then collapse this. Throw that over there, and just a couple more. Make this unique. Press Alt, left click, drag, edit region, and this will be the final one for me. Gonna drag the boundary a little bit. Yeah, so definitely make it yours. This is kind of an exercise to show you guys how to use the AtlasTexture, which is a very, very helpful way to use a sprite sheet and to get a bunch of different textures out from just one texture. So now that we have the mountain container, let's actually make this a full rect. Yeah, and it shouldn't mess with the position of anything even though you expanded it to full. But just know that if you wanted to hide the entire mountains, all the mountains rather, you just hit this and it'll toggle the visibility for everything inside the container. Or you can hide individual children. Okay, now that that's done, let's create our final bit, which is the tower. For the tower, we're going to use a new node, one that we haven't used before. It's going to be a texture button. The texture button is pretty cool because it mixes both a normal traditional button and also an Atlas texture. So what does that exactly mean? Let's find out. Select the map screen, Control A, and then we're going to type texture, and button comes out, right? So we're going to select this and hit create. And let's rename this to tower, or button tower. And so we're going to click the button tower, and then we're going to go over to the inspector and expand the textures. And you're going to notice that there's a bunch of different states the button can be in. Normal, pressed, hover, disabled, focus, click mask, all of these things. Just highlight over it just to see what exactly it is, but for our case, we are going to change these three things for normal, pressed, and hover. So let's go to normal and let's select this and go to AtlasTexture. We're going to expand this just like we did before. We're going to put in the map screen UI. From here, we're going to hit edit region, and we're going to select just this one on the left. And what I want you guys to do is just give it a 1 pixel border. Make sure that there's a 1 pixel gap on all sides. Just like that. And then we're going to hit close. And the reason for this is we want all the buttons to be at the same spot. So you're going to notice for the hover, which we're going to do next, we're going to go to AtlasTexture, and then we're going to expand this and throw in the map screen UI. Edit region. For the hover, we want it to look like this. And it has a 1 pixel border, which is why we need to give it that 1 pixel gap for the other one. But for this one, we can line it up directly to the size of this tower. So something like this. Hit close. And then for the final, for pressed, we're just going to copy this. So one nice thing you can do is you can hit copy. And this is a new feature, but now you can paste as unique. So this just came out in 4.5, so congrats to all you 4.5 users. You don't know how nice this is. Oh, I've never seen this screen before. Make unique recursive, select resources to make unique. Okay, so what we actually have to do is, this is the same, but let's just select this one right here. So I do know that these are the same, but in the off chance that what you have is different, it's just a good habit to go through the motions, especially when you're learning. Okay, close. And now we're going to try to see if this button works, but first let's get it into place. So we're going to press Alt, drag this, and I think I want to place it somewhere like right here or so, right? Maybe a little bit up, but these mountains are rendering behind this button. So let's fix that. Let's left click this and then bring it up. And now I think that looks pretty good, except for the fact that the mountains seem to exist on top of the tower, which might not be the best thing. So let's see which mountain it is, and then we're going to left click, or we're going to press Alt, left click, and just drag this a little bit, and I think it looks pretty good now. So let's test this out by running the scene. And wow, it looks pretty good, but it doesn't seem like our button is working. So let's figure out why. What we're going to do is we're going to go actually run the scene again one more time. And then we're going to go to the Debugger tab. And we're going to look for Miscellaneous. And this shows up the clicked Control tab to figure out where we're actually clicking. So I'm going to throw this slightly off screen so that we can look at both. And I'm going to try clicking the button. And you're going to notice that it shows me that I'm clicking the mountain container. Right. So what does the mountain container look like again? It's this. And you guys probably remember, but we expanded this to full rect, right? Which means that even though there's nothing except for these texture rects, which are this big, this still blocks our mouse input. So what do we have to do? We have to allow mouse input to pass through this blank screen. So we're going to go select the node that's giving us an issue, mountain container. And once we select it, we can go over to the inspector tab. And we're looking for the mouse section. So we're going to go to mouse and filter. We want to put it to ignore because we don't want this to block our mouse input. Okay, now let's run it again. And this time, it seems like it's working. Now that I'm looking at it, one thing I don't quite like is that the mouse hovering isn't exactly precise over this guy, unfortunately. So that is a little annoying, but there's not much we can do about it. So it highlights when we mouse over it, and that way when we click it, it darkens. I think the highlighting is a little bit too much for our game, but we can fix this in later episodes. Nice, so now let's get our button to do something. So the cool thing is we've done this before. We're going to connect our button and make it so that we can transfer scenes. So let's first create a script on the top. I'm going to select map screen, and I'm going to hit this attach new script button right here. And another way you can do this actually is you can right click and attach script. And I'm going to hit the directory because we don't want to create the script in the scenes folder. We want to create it into the scripts folder, and it's going to be map screen. Remember that Pascal case right here, and it's going to go to snake case. Create. All right, so we're going to select this button tower now that the script's been created. We're going to go to node because we're looking for signals. Double click pressed, and we're going to connect it back up to the map screen, which has the script. and you can only connect signals if there's an existing script where you want to connect it to. So the function is on button tower pressed, and what we want to do is we want to transfer scenes. But we haven't created a new scene yet, so let's get that done. Alright, so first things first, let's create a new folder under our assets folder. We're going to do right click, create new folder, and we're just going to call this map screen, map screen. And let's get all the map screens into there. And let's also do the same for title screen, create new folder, title screen. And so when you move a lot of your resources around, stuff like your textures and stuff, you always want to do it inside this area right here. Definitely do not do it from your file directory. Potentially you might be able to break links and stuff, so if you're moving stuff around, always make sure you do it inside of Godot, inside of your project. Now let's create a new folder, and this one's going to be a new one. It's going to be Explore Screen. Explore Screen, if I can type it. Okay, and so you're going to go to your downloaded assets, and we're going to look for Explore Screen, and let's get all of these 4 into the Explore Screen folder. Sweet. Okay, so now let's create a new scene, right? We're going to hit this plus right here, add a new scene. We're going to give it a control node on the top. And let's name this Explore Screen. Okay, and then let's save it into our scenes folder and save that. And now let's go ahead and make some of the nodes. It's stuff we've done before. We're going to have to create a bunch of texture rects. We're going to call this background. One of them is going to be overlay. Overlay. One will be path. And for now, let's just do that. So background is pretty simple. It's going to be this. Overlay, we're going to throw this one in. That looks good. Path, we're going to throw in Explore Screen Path. Bam. Cool, cool. And now let's create another texture button. So click Explore Screen, Control A, texture button, create. And we're going to call this button Explore. And let's go to textures right here. For normal, let's do AtlasTexture. Open this up, throw in our Explore Screen UI. Nice. Now let's edit the region. And let's take the first one. So this one doesn't need a 1 pixel buffer because we noticed that nothing else has an outline. So we're just going to go exactly over the button, checking each side, close. All right, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it in pressed as unique. Make sure that's okay. And then I'm going to expand this. I'm going to hit edit region. And for pressed, I want it to be dark. So it's going to be this one right here. Zoom in to make sure that there's no overlap, that I've captured all the pixels, and close that. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paste it one more time as unique. Okay, select it, hit edit region, and we're going to go all the way to the bottom and do the last button. Okay, that looks good. So now we're going to press Alt, left click, drag. And what I actually want to do is I want to make sure this is centered on the screen. So let's use our anchor preset and go to center bottom. And press escape. And we're going to use our arrow keys to move this up slightly until I think maybe this looks good. It's over, the overlay is kind of below this, so let's move the overlay up. Okay, that's cool. button explorer, I'm just going to move it down a little bit more with the arrow keys. And I think that looks fine. Save that. Okay, so now let's run this really quick, just to make sure our button's working. And again, it's not working, right? It's probably the overlay. So let's check this again. We're going to go into Debugger, throw up the Miscellaneous tab, go back into the game, and let's try clicking this. And what we get is Explore Screen Overlay. So let's fix that. Overlay, mouse. Instead of pass, we're going to go ignore, and then run the scene again. And whenever you run the scene, it's going to save your game. It's going to save your file, so that's good. And now when we mouse over the button, it indicates that we're hovering over it, and when we press it, it goes dark. Very nice. Okay. Now one more thing we want to do is we want to create a little icon right here that we're going to use to mark our progress as we explore. So let's go here and let's create an icon. So an icon is basically a texture rect. So create, and we're going to call this tower icon. And now we're going to go hit this arrow button. We're going to go to AtlasTexture, expand that, throw in the Explore Screen UI, edit region. We're going to go up to right here, select just this, close that. We notice that this has been super scaled, so we're going to hit this to shrink it, and then go to stretch mode, scale to keep. And of course, we want to drag this box, minimize it so it's just what we want. I'm going to save my project, and now it looks pretty good. So let's add the code so that we can switch from one scene to another scene from the map screen now. So let's go to the script, click that, and now we're going to use the function that we learned before, which is getTree, the complicated one, and then we're going to do change scene to file. And remember, if it's highlighted over it, you can use tab to autocomplete. And we don't have a lot of scenes, so you can also use your arrow keys right here to select the right one, which is Explore Screen, and press tab to autocomplete. Nice. And let's comment this. Change scene to explore. Save that. And now let's try running it from this scene. So now we're on the map, right? And we want to go to the... Okay, so there's a little bug right here. You notice that I'm actually hovering over the tower, but it doesn't seem to highlight, right? So most likely the culprit is this bunch of trees. But let's figure it out. We're going to go to Debugger and see what is going on with this. Click right here. And what does it say? Mountain container, mountain 3. All right. So we already made sure that the mountain container is getting ignored for our mouse input, but let's go to mountain 3 as well. Select that. And once you select the node, it opens up in the inspector as always. Let's minimize this texture, go to mouse, and change the filter type to ignore. Save it, and run the scene again. Alright, so bring the mouse down and just go up slowly, and now there we go. It looks like the button is responding to our input. And now we can click it. And boom, we go to our explore screen. Very, very nice. Now let's make it so that we actually do something here. So how about we throw a monster in here? Let's go to our assets folder and monster sprites. We're just going to throw it into assets right here. So I'm going to drag it and drop it. And now let's go back to explore screen. And let's add another, believe it or not, we're going to add a button. Why? Well, not just the normal button, we're going to add a texture button. The reason for this is because a button does a lot of things, and most importantly, a button lets you click on something. So until we get some more coding logic figured out, maybe we can just interact with the monster by clicking it. And for that, a button is perfect. We've already gone over texture buttons, you know what to do. So let's still call this button, and let's call this monster. And now stretch mode, keep is fine. We're going to expand it and just go to normal. Hit AtlasTexture, expand that, throw the monster sprites into there, edit region. You guys must be experts by now. We're going to mark out exactly where the monster is, hit close, and let's shrink this. And finally, let's use the anchor preset to go center. Press escape to minimize that window, and then use our arrow keys to move it up a little bit to what feels about right. I think this probably works for me. So alright, this looks pretty good. Now let's introduce a new node. This time we're going to be using the label node. So let's click on Explore Screen, Control A, and start typing in label, and we're going to create this. And so what this is going to do is a label is used for basically displaying text, right? So we can change the text right here, and we can update this in code as well to reflect things such as progress or your HP. So let's make this a child of the tower icon first. So we're going to click and drag this to the tower icon to make it a child of that. Make sure to select the label, press and hold Alt, left click to get it somewhat into place like this to the right of it. And let's just rename it to label floor. Label tower floor. Okay, and then we're going to put in a number here. Or let's just put in XX. Okay, something like that. Now we'll also do this for our HP as well. So let's click on Explore Screen again, press Control A, create a label node, and this time we're going to say label HP. Label HP. And we're going to press Alt, left click this, and bring it down to maybe right here. So, and for the text, I'm just going to go HP, colon, and then XX. Cool. Let's save this. So we're going to go to click on Explore Screen, attach a new script, and make sure that we're saving this to our scripts folder. Open and create. And now what we're going to do here is comment it a little bit. Let's put in node connection. Let's also put in variables. And for node connections, we're going to want to connect the tower icon, expand this to show the label tower floor, control, select, and drag so that we can get the node connection, and also do this for the HP as well. So if you've selected it accidentally, just control click it to deselect, and then control click and drag. Okay, now let's make a function. Function ready. So this function, as we already know, it's going to run whenever you initialize the scene. So basically whenever you want to start up and have something get executed, you always want to put it into this ready function. So let's just pass it for now, and let's create another function, maybe function update HP. Pass. And remember, when you're working with functions, you got to start it with the keyword func, and then you give it the name of the function, and then you have to add the parentheses at the end so that you can say that, hey, this is what the function is, and then this, you can read it as returns void. So func update HP returns void. Okay. And we'll also do this for the tower floor. Func update tower floor returns void. Pass. Like that. Now in the variables, let's create a variable for HP. Max HP is going to be, okay, so this is something we haven't done. Max HP is going to be, and then you press colon, and you have to give it a type. And so this type is going to be integer. And we don't want our max HP to be 0. We want it to be something like 10, or let's give it 5 for now. Okay. And then for the tower floor, we're going to go var tower floor is going to be int as well, in an integer. And that's going to be, we're going to start at 1. Okay, so now we've got these functions with nothing inside it. Let's do update HP is going to be, let's add in the connection that we have right here, label HP, right? And remember, this is a type label, and so we can reference things that this has. One property that this label has is text, which displays something to the screen. So we want to reference that property. We want to change that property. So we do period and then text. And so we're going to do max HP. And it's going to give us an error because the text, we can see that it requires a string, right? But right here, we know that this is an integer. So it's obviously going to give us a warning because the two types are different. So what do? We will highlight this and press parentheses, and we're going to put str. And that's a function to convert an integer to a string. Update tower floor, we're going to also do the same for that. We'll type in label tower floor dot text equals string tower floor. Nice. So now let's throw these functions into our ready function so that when we start the scene, it'll get updated. Save that and let's run it. And now we're going to see it's 1 right here and it's 5 right here, but it doesn't really tell us, it's not descriptive enough for the HP, right? So let's get that fixed up. Update HP. We want to keep the max HP part, but we want to tell the player, the user, that, hey, this is HP. So we're going to have to give it a string, just like this. And this is called concatenation, but this is how you add two strings together. So this part is definitely a string, denoted by the quotation marks, and you can concatenate it by using this plus symbol, and you can connect it with another string. But make sure that you have the space inside here so that you can separate these two strings with that space. And now when we run this, it'll be HP5 right here. Cool. So now let's have it so that this button does something for us. Okay, so we have to go to this button, button Explorer, and then go to Node and Pressed, because we want it to do something when we press this button. And remember, we want to connect it to the script on top, connect, and we're going to scroll down. And whenever we press this button, how about we increment the tower floor? So tower floor plus equals, which means it's going to increment by 1. So you use this operator whenever you want to add to whatever it was previously. So when we start this, it's going to start at 1, but whenever we press the button, it's going to add 1 to that value. So that's what this does. Okay, so now let's run it and see what happens. So it should be updating, right? It should be incrementing the number, but why doesn't it update? It's because we never called this label to be updated when we click this button. So let's do that. Inside this variable, we're going to do something called a setter. So right here, we're going to add a colon as well, and then we're going to do something like this. Set value, colon. And so here, let me finish writing it all out. We're going to do tower floor equals value, okay? So this is how you basically set up a setter. And what this does is it's going to, whenever you change this value, it's going to set the value of tower floor to whatever you changed it to. But you might be thinking like, why do you even need to do this, right? The most important thing about the setter is that this is running when you actually set the value. So you can actually do really cool things like update other things as well. Let's say this will always happen whenever you change the value of tower floor. So how about we update the tower floor label, and let's actually give this a more descriptive update tower floor label. And let's change this right here and change this right here as well. Okay, so now we know that whenever we change the value of tower floor, it's going to set tower floor to this value that we changed it to, and it's also going to run this update label function. And so now when we run the scene, this is how we use a setter. So this is basically what floor we're on. And so we just keep exploring, the floor keeps going up. Now let's do this for the HP as well. How about whenever we press the button, we also lose 1 HP, which is pretty simple, right? So let's do max HP, or actually, here, let's create a current HP. and integer. So we're going to create the variable, right? And we're going to give it a type, but we don't always have to initialize it. So we don't have to give it a value. So we can just leave it like this. And so what we're going to do with this is at the start, when we run this, we want to make our current HP equal our max HP. Okay, so as soon as you run the scene, your current HP will be 5. And what we're going to be using is we're going to be using current HP for the rest of all the calculations. So let's change our update HP function, and let's first go change the name of the function to update HP label, copy this, and see wherever it throws an error, change that name, and now let's change what's actually being displayed from maximum HP to current HP. Just like that. And how about when we lose HP, when we explore, we lose HP. So current HP minus equals 1. Just like how we incremented the tower floor, we're going to decrease the HP as we keep exploring. This one right here, we're going to also use a setter. So set value and current HP is going to equal value. And then we're going to do update HP label. And so you might ask me, hey, then what does this part of it do, right? You understand that like, hey, whenever we set the value, we update the HP label, we update the tower floor label, but what is it that this part does, right? Why do we have to set the current HP to the value again? And so kind of think of it like this. If you don't have this line in here, you're going to be saying, hey, the current HP is changing. So maybe it's 5 and then it goes to 4, right? But if you don't have this line, it's not going to set it to 4. So even though you're telling it, hey, current HP is 4, it's just going to keep it at 5. So you need to make sure that you're setting your variable to its actual value that you have in the setter. Okay, now let's save it. Let's run the scene. So we see the tower floor increment, we see the HP decrease. Okay, and now finally, let's make it so that when we go to 0 HP, let's go back to our map screen, kind of experience a faint situation. How do we want to do this? We've got a couple different ways, but one way we can do it is we can use a setter, because we know that whenever our HP gets updated, it's going to run this part of the code. Or we could use our update HP label. And so for now, I think we're going to use the update HP label. Or no, I want to use the setter actually. So let's select right here and then create a couple new lines and go if current HP is less than or equal to 0. And this might be the first time we're using an if statement. So if statements are very, very powerful tools. You're going to use this a lot. And basically, it's just as it sounds, you're going to be checking against some condition. So if our current HP is 0 or negative, that means we faint. So whenever your HP changes, it's going to run the setter. It's going to set the current HP to whatever value it's being updated to. It's going to change the HP label, which updates the text of the label. And it's finally going to check if HP is less than 0 or 0. And if it is, then we're going to do get tree dot change scene to file, just like before, and we're going to go back to the map screen. So once we faint, we're going to just get exited out of the exploration. Let's run it. 4, 3, 2, 1, boom. Just like that. So I think that's a very good place for us to stop. Hopefully this was very informative to you guys. Definitely let me know what things you want to see in this series as well. I have a lot of good ideas, but I'm also open to hearing what you guys specifically want to learn. Just know that obviously some things are significantly harder, so it might take a while before we build up our skills to get to some points. But definitely look forward to the next ones. See you guys later. Peace.